This is the first video for the midterm. You will see this grade sheet slash handout that I'm working on change and evolve as the videos go, but by the time you're working on it, you'll have the completed copy. So as long as you follow along with these videos, you will get everything that you need to complete the midterm. The purpose of this midterm is for you to learn all the additional things that could come in handy for your final project. So we've already done basic frame by frame animation and then a lot of stuff that you can do with symbols, and now we'll go on to more specialized things that you can do that'll be huge time savers and make your animations more realistic. So we'll just start taking these one by one, but what I want to emphasize here is that you need to meet all the requirements and structure this a lot like the demo that I'll have for you to watch. But I highly encourage you to work on the assets for your final project while you're working on the midterm. And I'll try to give you examples of that as I go. In fact, let's just look at one thing real quick. One of the first topics that we're going to work on here is animating along a path. And I'll just play this inside the program here. And so I'm going to use like circus throwing knives for my demo because they work pretty good for something going along an arc. But let's say that your final video is going to be about a javelin thrower, then why not, develop the assets for your final video, because you can cut and paste them in there. On the other hand, if you just want to follow along and do exactly what I do, that's fine as well. If you just want to replace a couple things, that's fine. Whatever works out best for you, but I'm just encouraging you along the way that if an opportunity comes up that you can experiment on something that you might use in your final project, then by all means do that. And a topic that I want to introduce you to right away is just what I'm doing here. This is not the full entire midterm. This is just something that to refresh my memory on easing in and easing out. I thought, let me just make a quick little video here, brand new project. And a lot of people work this way. They'll have a big file, like let's just talk about the final project. You'll have your final project FLA file, and a lot of people start to, once they have progress going on it, start to get scared that they're going to mess it up. So they're real scared to try new things with it. And if that's the case, then open up a brand new document, try your experimentations, and then go back to your other file, which you should be making a lot of backup copies of anyway, and then go ahead and put those new things that you just learned about in the file, so that way it'll be constantly going back and forth between your main file and experimental files. So let's start to create the actual midterm project, and you can see here's a new one. It says stage size, same size as midterm JPEG in the Blackboard contents. So under Blackboard contents, I'm going to have two files for you that you'll need to work on this midterm project. So let's go ahead and get those. So if you log into Blackboard, click on our class, click on content over here, you should see an item in content that says something to the effect of midterm items, and there'll be a JPEG on there and an Illustrator file. Now, as I mentioned before, Blackboard is not always straightforward in how you download things. Sometimes you can just right click on a file name and you'll see save as, but in this case you can see there are no options like that. So sometimes you just have to click on it and it'll open up in a browser window, and then you can right click on it and save the image as. Sometimes you'll see down at the bottom of the screen a little thing indicating that it downloaded for you. Sometimes you have to open up your downloads folder. So it's just one of those things that unfortunately they haven't got a perfect system for downloading in Blackboard. But if you have really a lot of trouble, let me know. I can always just give them to you in class on your computers. So what I'm going to do is, now that I have this opened up in a browser, in this case I'm going to right click on it and then save image as, and now would be a good time to make a nice folder structure for the midterm. So you will probably, going back and forth between class and the library, will just work on a folder on the desktop. So what that would mean for you is to go over here, click on desktop, click on new folder, make a new folder. In my case, I'm going to put it in a different spot here. And then I made a new folder for it, and I would suggest, since you have to turn these in, you just name it your last name underscore first name underscore midterm. So then if we go ahead, we have the midterm JPEG up here. We'll click save, and while we're doing this in Blackboard, we'll just go ahead and download the Illustrator file as well. So once again, if I right click on it, I see save link, but I don't want to save the link. I actually want to save the document. So let me try clicking on it here and see what happens. And I don't know if you saw that arrow come down. It actually did download, and now I do have something down here that has the file name. So I just made my screen a little smaller so you can see what happens. And I didn't even realize this, that it also put the JPEG there too. And so then what you can do is you can hit this little drop down on here, and you can go to show in Finder, and then it shows the image that you just downloaded in your downloads folder. If you don't have that option, let me show you yet another way that you might be able to get there. You could go to your desktop, and then down at the very bottom, now you won't be able to see this, but you go down to the Finder icon, which is the two faces put together. It's usually the furthest left option there. Click on Finder, it'll bring up your folder structure, and then over on the left, click on Downloads. Again, if you're seeing a little tiny view here instead, there should be a little drop down caret you can click that'll blow this open, and then you just click on Downloads. If you modify it by the date, then you should get it as the very top item. It looks like I actually downloaded it twice. So then what you can do is just click on this and then drag it into your folder, and there you'll have both items in the folder. So now if I drag this folder over here, let it go, I now have both files inside of my midterm folder. Let's take a look at the component of your midterm that'll be a take-home quiz, and we can answer the first couple questions here. So one way to find the size of an image is to right click on it and select. So here we go, here's our image. We're going to right click on it, or control click if you're on a notebook, and you go to get info. So that's the answer to question number one. You go over to more info, and if it's closed up like this, you just swing that tab open, and that shows you the dimensions. So write that down, 800 by 533. That's the size that you're going to set Flash or Animate to. It's just one way to check the size of an image. Another way is to use Photoshop and go up to image size on the main menu structure. And if you want to know more about digital images, which you really should know a lot about to be either a web designer or a digital animator that might go in the direction of using some ultra realism in your work, you can also go to, and this is the answer to question number two, the profsteveg.wordpress.com instructional videos, and go under instructional videos Art 129 web. This just happens to be for another class, but it is generic information that can be used for anyone interested in digital image knowledge. So let me just show you that real quick. So here's the answer to that next question, and then you go under instructional videos Art 129 web, and then digital image knowledge, and there's all kinds of stuff here about image resolution, cropping images, and so on and so on. So now we're going to go into Flash. We're going to make our new document. For this class, we're using ActionScript 3.0, and we just got that information off of the image. So we know that if we make the stage size this size, that when we get to the part of the video that uses the image, it'll fit in there perfectly with no white along the edges. It'll look like we're just making a video about that image. Frame rate for this project's 20 frames per second, and we'll take care of the background color once we get inside of there. I'll double click on the hand tool to bring the stage into focus. So there's our working area. Okay, so we're down to the stage color, and we can just simply copy this. I'm not going to copy the pound sign because, to be honest with you, right now I can't remember whether it's already there or not. If it's not, we'll just put it in there. So what we'll do is we'll go back into Flash, and we had the opportunity to put the stage color in when we first made it, but we can always change that after the fact just by making sure that we're not clicked on anything. If there happens to be something on the stage, just click on nothingness, so nothing is selected. Go into Properties, and then under Stage, just click right here to make that fly open. And then you can of course pick a default swatch from here, but you can click here to go in further. And then yeah, the pound sign was there to start with, so all we have to do is swipe across here, Command V to paste that information in, click on OK, and it'll change the stage color. By the way, those of you who are interested in learning more about what these numbers mean, in that same section that we just mentioned that was the answer to the test question, is videos that deal with hexadecimal colors. So those of you who are doing this for a profession may want to take the time to gain that extra knowledge. Click OK. I have a slight blue hue to my stage. Go ahead and get in the habit of saving this. So File, Save. We want to make sure that that ends up in that same folder that you created before, which in my case is right here. So I'm going to select that folder, and then I will, since I'm going to be, as a student, I would be turning this in, I'll go ahead and name it last name underscore first name underscore midterm. Then there's nothing to rename later on. Just simply click Save. Okay, we're good there. And then this is the answer to number 3. As I mentioned before, sometimes, and I highly encourage it, digital animators often worked out part of their animations in a file other than their main production file or files. These test animations can either be for experimenting or copied and pasted into that'd be the main production file, or you can just put main file. Most of the time I encourage you to go with this option of experimenting in your own work. But if you do develop something in your experiment and you really like it and you can actually use it in your main production file, then here is how you copy it. You actually have to select all the frames that you want to copy in the entire span of the frames that you want to copy. So if I only wanted this much, I would click here, hold down the Shift key, click here. But let's say that I want the whole entire thing. Then I would click on the very top left, come down, click on the very bottom right with the Shift key held down. Now all of that's selected. Then I right click or control click and I select copy frames. Now that is way different than doing edit copy or doing Command C. So remember that you must select it from this drop down menu here that you get from right clicking. But then when I do that, I can switch to the document that I want to put it in, and all I have to do is click on the very first frame that I want it to show up, and then I do a right click and then I select paste frames. And again, that's very different than a Command V or an edit paste. And notice that it even brings in the layers for you. However, that's not what I want to do in this case. I want to rebuild this animation for both of our benefits. So I'm going to Command Z. Maybe I gotta get back in there. There we go. I'm going to Command Z till I'm back to just my initial layer. So again, the answer here is either experiments or experimenting, main file here. And then the important thing is to develop a system of fearlessly experimenting and not worrying about messing up your main production file. And again, like my earlier videos, make a sequential backup system, and I'll actually show that in action within the next video or two.